What is going on, everybody? My name is Kneeckoh and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. Today, the Indigo disc drops. It comes out later tonight. It'll be Thursday morning in Japan. It'll be late Wednesday night here for me. So, I am pre-recording some stuff because I will be live streaming my playthrough of the Indigo disc and will not be making videos because I got to get through the content to actually make some competitive videos. So, I want to talk about a particular Pokemon that is returning in the DLC that is going to cause everybody a headache. I think everybody knows exactly where this is going. Incineroar is back, and I want to talk about how to use it in Scarlet and Violet and what changes we might have to make to Incineroar in order for it to really kind of stand out, because I feel like in Scarlet and Violet we have so many new tools at our disposal that Incineroar sits a little bit farther behind than it has in previous generations. So we're going to talk about all that here today. If this is your first time here on the channel, make sure you are subbed for more videos like this in the future, and be sure to leave a like, comment, and hit that bell. And all that interaction helps me out a ton. It helps push the video out to new people that are interested in seeing this kind of content, and I appreciate it a ton. But let's talk about Incineroar. So Incineroar is just annoying. Everybody that's played VGC knows how good this Pokemon is, and it's good for a vast number of reasons. We're not even going to get into the fact that it has Terra yet. We're just going to talk about the base kit that this Pokemon has, right? Looking at its stats, it's got solid defensive stats, right? 95 HP, 90 defense, 90 special defense. It could just take some hits, which is fantastic because it also has the ability to Intimidate, allowing you to get out there and lower the attack stat of the opposing Pokemon and just already make this Pokemon even more bulky. On top of this, it gets Fake Out. What in the world? Like, we're just stacking it up. After we get Fake Out, we get access to Parting Shot. We could Parting Shot and lower the special attack and attack of a Pokemon and rotate this Pokemon out to then continue Intimidate cycling. This is nuts. Looking at the attack stat with a 115 attack stat, that's absolutely crazy. Very, very high attack stat. You're actually able to use this to, you know, Flare Blitz or this, that, or the other, just to give you some stab coverage options. And then you do have some other things at your disposal, like Darkest Lariat to hit some other stuff. And there's some other support items that this Pokemon has. So you got a very naturally bulky, naturally powerful Pokemon with a lot of fantastic support features here that could just kind of start shutting Pokemon down by existing. Now we're also giving that access to Terastallization. We can get rid of the weaknesses that allowed us to deal with Incineroar. It's kind of crazy when you stop and think about it. So, on top of this, you know, you're normally running like some sort of healing item or maybe safety goggles on this particular Pokemon. You may not have to run safety goggles anymore because you can just Terra Grass. But yes, things like that. So maybe you're running safety goggles, or you're running Citrus Berry, or I believe, if I'm remembering right, like Wiki Berry. Not Wiki Berry, what was it? Figgy Berry. Figgy Berry was very common. So things like that. Just healing items that are going to allow Incineroar to stay in longer and continue doing its thing, Fake Outing, Intimidating, all that stuff. Just an incredibly annoying Pokemon. Now, I have the Incineroar. This is from a really old team. This is way back Sword and Shield days of VGC for me. I just have a spread that I used all the time on Incineroar, something I just always had in my back pocket. It was on like every freaking team I built because Incineroar is just that good. So I copied it over into a Scarlet and Violet format, and I gave it Terra Water because what's the biggest thing right now that is going to be a problem for this particular Pokemon? Looking at Watershifu and Ogerpon, right? Watershifu and Ogerpon are going to be very, very problematic. Now, you may be thinking they have Intimidate, they can lower the attack stat. Incineroar can lower the attack stat for these Pokemon. However, we have Surging Strikes. It's going to crit every time. It doesn't matter if its attack stat's lowered because it ignores it. On top of that, Ogerpon has Ivy Cudgel, which has a high critical hit ratio. So even if you Intimidate it, there's a good chance it crits you, and it doesn't matter. So that is definitely something to think about in far as Pokemon that you're going to have problems with Incineroar. These two Pokemon are very common. That's why I went with Terra Water. Terra Water is just something that you're going to see a fair bit of on Incineroar. I've got a good feeling. Maybe you'll see Grass pop up here and there, but that makes you weaker to other Incineroars, which could be problematic. So I just don't think that's very likely. Also makes you weak to Hisuian Arcanine, which I still think will be prevalent. So definitely things to consider. And that's another thing we have to talk about as far as Incineroar goes in the current format, right? So this is something that you're going to see a fair bit of, but you have to consider the fact that there are other Pokemon in the format that are doing similar things to what Incineroar does that can have really devastating impact on Incineroar, right? So looking at, like I mentioned, Hisuian Arcanine. This Pokemon does the same thing. It intimidates. It does not fake out, but it is naturally faster than Incineroar. So you may get a turn to, you know, get faked out by Incineroar, but the next turn you can hit it with a Rock Slide or hit it with a Head Smash and just do big damage and get rid of that Pokemon, right? So definitely something to consider. This Pokemon is very, very popular right now. Another Pokemon that can cause problems for Incineroar, we have to think about Iron Hands. Iron Hands just hits that thing for super effective damage. Just Drain Punch it, Drain Punch it, Drain Punch it. If it wants a Terra Water to get away from the Drain Punch, you have Wild Charge. I think Iron Hands is still going to be incredibly good moving into the next format, and I think Incineroar is not going to like stop it from being good. However, I do want to preface that I think that because of Pokemon like these existing, that we will change Incineroar slightly. I think it could be more common, truth be told, that we might even see us dropping things like Darkest Lariat or something, and maybe throwing on things like Will-O-Wisp, right? Because if you think about it, obviously this isn't going to impact Arcanine all that much, but being able to Will-O-Wisp and Iron Hands is going to like mitigate that Pokemon for the rest of the game. If you do it to things like Urshifu, like say you're into a battle against an Urshifu, you Terra Water to take the hit, you burn it, that's really going to slow that Pokemon down. Same goes for things like Ogerpon, right? So you have this ability to kind of just Terra take a hit and become a nuisance because you do have access to other really powerful support tools through the form of Will-O-Wisp. So I think this could become a lot more common, and this is all pure speculation right now because we, you know, nothing is out. We don't even have access to the DLC yet, but this is pure theory crafting on how I think Incineroar is going to play. I think that it could be very likely that we start seeing Incineroar run Will-O-Wisp more frequently, kind of like we do with Arcanine. Regular Arcanine almost always has Will-O-Wisp on it, right? It runs like Flare Blitz, Extreme Speed, and Will-O-Wisp, and maybe Protect or some other move, right? I think that could be a common thing that we start seeing pop up with Incineroar, is just having it have access to that Will-O-Wisp to start slowing down other Pokemon. I think it could be very solid with the things that are very popular, other things, like even that you don't have to necessarily worry about with Incineroar, like Chien-Pao is still running around. Chien-Pao is very problematic. Other physical attackers, you got Landorus running around still. Like, there's a lot of physical attackers in the format that are just incredibly powerful, and we have more coming in the DLC. So I think it could be very likely that we just start seeing Will-O-Wisp be that much more common on Incineroar, and I could even see a world, like there are ways to deal with Incineroar without, you know, a health item, right? You could run a Wide Lens, boost the accuracy of your Will-O-Wisp, and then maybe run it on a slower team next to a Sinistcha, right? You could just keep cycling Sinistcha and with Incineroar and causing a lot of problems in that regard. Honestly, I think Incineroar and Sinistcha are going to be like bread and butter in the new format, because if you consider the fact that you can constantly just Parting Shot into Hospitality, rotate Hospitality back out into Intimidate, and then Parting Shot back into Hospitality, that's a really, really strong combo, and it's going to be something that's super freaking annoying to see. So I definitely think there is a world where we see these two Pokemon pop up a lot together. So those are my thoughts just initially, thinking about other Pokemon that, you know, this can deal with pretty effectively. If you think about Fluttermane, you only take neutral damage from Fairy type attacks, and you are going to resist its Ghost type. So pretty decent into Fluttermane, especially if you build it more specially defensive, can deal with Fluttermane pretty effectively. Like I mentioned, you can Terra to get away from Urshifu, which is pretty solid. It just deals with so much in the format, and it's going to be everywhere. Now, there is other Pokemon like Smeargle that's coming back that could possibly be on a ton of teams as well. Just something to think about in that regard. Smeargle is just very, very popular. It's a very good competitive Pokemon, and I definitely think it is going to make its return in force here in the Indigo disc. But I think Incineroar is a more easy to adapt onto teams, because it's literally running like the same moveset. Maybe swap out Will-O-Wisp for Darkest Lariat, just depending on the team. It really just does the same thing on every freaking team. You can just copy and paste it and drop it everywhere, versus something like Smeargle, you may swap some moves out here and there and change up what that particular Smeargle is doing. Incineroar is pretty much just Incineroar doing Incineroar things. But those are my thoughts on how we're going to play this Pokemon in the DLC. I think because of the physical threats that are available, we are likely going to see Will-O-Wisp pop up a tad more frequently on Incineroar than we used to. But I think it's just a really, really solid Pokemon. I know a lot of people dislike it. I think it's just really good, and it gives you a lot of maneuverability on a team. It's going to be everywhere, so get ready for it if you're not. But that is going to be it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But like I said, that's it. That's all I got for you. I'm going to be streaming the DLC later tonight, playing through, getting as much done as I can. I'm trying to get through the story as quickly as possible so that way I can then get back to making normal competitive videos. But it really just depends how quickly I can breeze through the DLC. Yeah, that's really it. If I can get through it very, very quickly, we'll be back to making normal VGC content sooner than later. I'm going to stream the whole thing, and I'm going to try to stream a bit more frequently as well here on the channel, maybe once, twice a week, just so that way we can goof around, maybe do some team building stuff, maybe do some shiny hunting stuff, that kind of thing. So, if that's your jam, make sure you're subbed for more videos like this in the future. I post daily competitive Pokemon content. Also, check out the Discord. People over there hanging out, playing Pokemon all the time, talking about the DLC. Everybody's very excited, so check that out as well. And if you want to see anything else from me, check out any of the videos that you see here on screen. But until next time, peace.